Hello, everyone, and welcome to Happy Hour. I'm Cody Willard, along with Nicole Petallides. Rebecca Diamond is on assignment. Today on Happy Hour, the market.
Wow.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, guilty, I tell you.
Eric's selling out, but we won't hold it against you too much, Eric Bowling. I'm startled. It's hard to make me speechless, but you almost just did it, Eric Bowling. Eric, let's talk markets in all seriousness. It really did end up being a pretty nice little rally of a year for the bulls. Let's talk a little bit about 2010.
Well, yeah, I think that
When I think of jobs, I always think of jobs as that lagging indicator. Hopefully we'll have the turnaround in the economy and in the companies and in the corporate growth and everything. And then we're going to have to start to see the government really take a step back. You know, I was talking with Ben Willis of Sunrise Securities today, and he was talking about that you have to get out of the quantitative easing before they're going to raise rates. But really, the jobless rate, remember we hit that 10.2% only to pull back to 10%. The question is whether or not that 10.2% was the peak. Will it then rise again? Some people are pushing it up to 10.5, but we do know that jobs is a lagging indicator, sadly enough. It really is, right?
So, Eric, let's talk a little bit about whether or not the market can continue to rally as unemployment continues to climb. If we end up with a 12, 13% unemployment rate, like you said, the government can continue to transfer wealth from working America to corporate America. Will the stock market continue to go up? Is there truly money on the sidelines? I don't buy that. I think they're lying about their balance sheets, much like the banks were at the top.
Look, everybody fudges a little, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, they fudge a little, but really, from what I've always heard and what I've read, in the trillions of dollars, it was $3.5 trillion that was on the sidelines, ready to come into the market, and there are people who are going to be money chasing money. We may have seen some money come off the table here at the end of the year for the capital gains tax. You know, they want to get it out now that it's 15%. Rather than next year when capital gains tax go even higher. But that money's probably going to come in, a lot of the traders are saying. What do you think, Eric?
I'm waiting for it to happen, Nicole. It's just been, look, it stays strong and home prices haven't come back. It's a divergence that has to converge, whether it's the other two things are going to get better or the stock market's going to come down and meet the other two. I don't know, but it's just one of those things where you go, one of these things doesn't belong here.
And the home prices are so sad, isn't it? And I saw you today talking about how
that's great for somebody who's going to buy cheap homes. Eric Bowling, real estate.
Cody, I'm going to take the opposite side of that. It's because of household destruction through the stock market, less the stock market, but through homes, through asset holdings. So no one really wants to see that happen. I understand what you're saying. It's got to be a market.
Real estate, people who are long real estate don't want to see that happen. But Eric, that's a point that you and I often debate around here. It's the savers and the renters that are ending up propping up those artificial housing prices. Let them come down. Housing is still twice today what it was 10 years ago.
Okay, but that's not a bad thing. Think about this. It's okay if everything goes up, Cody. I don't agree with the way they're doing it, where every couple of weeks we hear a new program or a mortgage mitigation program, or we're going to throw more money at this bank. That's not the way to do it. I agree with you there, but it's okay if things are good.
I would agree if the government weren't redistributing wealth. I'd love to see the market actually going up.
All right, and let's just bring it home to a regular person. How about we'll keep the government out and we'll keep the people who lost all their money out, the people who lost their home values. Let's just talk quickly about the people who may be considering buying a home and that they should be so careful. What looks like a bargain house may not necessarily be one.
Again, prices are twice what they were today.
It may be a little more than you thought. It may drop in value, so everybody still has to be careful.
Eric, stick around for a second.
All right, well, the president is being briefed on what security measures went wrong in the attempted Christmas Day terror attack. Peter Barnes is in.
All right, we'll see you guys in 2010, but in the meantime, everybody pick up your laptops, chat it up during us on the phone. Peter Goltz, former NTSB director, welcome to you both. Start off with you, please, Mr. Yuffet. Are we? That's why I have to. I didn't know that was the direct correlation.
Yeah, this is hide his explosive in his underwear.
So do I have to
either to fly when you go to the airport for no reason in the world?
Up to this argument, what's the problem with what he's saying? Should we be spending money on something that might not be effective?
Well, here's a good interim solution.
Can I answer you, please?
Here. Okay, I'm not showing my breasts, nor am I showing any of my private areas. I will be too violated, right? Whether my husband wants me to be covered up or perhaps wear a wig on top of my hair. I am fine with being checked out so that our plane is safe. I don't think that I would feel violated. I took a survey at the New York Stock Exchange. I walked around, informal, all right, and I asked all the guys down there, and I asked them about their wives, and they all said, do it. There wasn't one person on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange who
No.
How
said
many Muslims are
that
down
they
on the
would-
floor of the
no,
stock exchange?
No, but
How
you know
many?
what? No, there aren't, and I'm with you, and
Show
I get
me.
it. But wait, the one Irish guy jokingly said, look, if it were the Irish that were being, interrogated or maybe profiling or whatever, he said, fine, check me extra. But really, they really believe that it is a quicker, safer,
Peter,
faster way for us to
address
get
that.
up there.
Is it actually effective?
Quicker is right. Quicker is right.
Quick-
But I
I'm
want to
all for
show.
more
Sit in the
special-
back of the plane
no,
too.
No, I didn't say
I
not.
know,
No,
I
they
know,
get
but
first
this is where
class.
Peter.
As
I
long
wanna
as
hear
long you
something
don't,
special.
as long okay, it's okay with the Muslims and with everyone else. Regarding the fact,
All right,
All right,
Peter,
guys
Isaac
and
Effet,
Peter,
thank you
we
both.
thank you
Okay,
both.
thank
At
you.
least you got a chance to get
I just
in
wanted to
both
ask
of
him
your things.
what
Thank
the
you
difference
for
we're all out.
joining
between
us
747
on tap.
JFK.
Mr. Cash for Clunkers, thank you very much both for joining us. Bye.
Hey, welcome back. Dutch automaker Spiker says it's getting one more week for a chance to buy out General Motors' Saab unit. For the latest on this story, we'll head right over.
Next year. On tap, after World War II, there was the car boom and the baby boom. And of course, we can't forget the internet boom or the housing bubble. If I could predict the next bubble, I'll probably be rich. We'll stick around. Well, you should stick around because
Before we get to the stocks, I mean, there are plenty of people who think bonds are a great way to go. I mean, the fixed income, the safety of
I'll take the other
fixed
side of
income,
that.
right? I mean, I love stocks, and I've watched the stocks myself with my own eyes, and we've seen many of them jump up. But there's plenty of people who like the municipal bonds and treasury bonds, right? I mean,
there might be some, but
There
I
are
wouldn't
people.
touch treasuries
And,
with a
well,
10-foot pole.
I know, especially now. I know. I'm just saying that there are some people who like bonds and think they're safe.
Well,
While the economy may have been down, Hollywood was able to break the 2007 sales record, raking in over $10 billion at the box office this year. It was a great year. Why? Is it these hits? Is it the economy that people were just going there to spend their money? They didn't want to travel as much? What was it? Well, Megan Fox. I just think they're fabulous. Were they in any of these movies? Yeah, I don't get to the movies much, I have to admit. Right? I mean, I don't get to the movie. Were they in any of these blockbusters?
Well, Megan Fox is in.
Welcome back to Happy Hour. You know, Nicole, AT&T is hanging up on Tiger Woods. But I'm bummed.
Oh,
My mama
very
liked that
cute,
pun
very
anyway,
cute.
guys. No, but in all seriousness, the phone company is joining Gillette and Accenture in dropping support for Woods. AT&T's logo used to appear on Woods' golf bag. This to lead us into our chat segment.
love
Nicole,
this
welcome to
topic.
chat.
I love this topic.
FoxBusiness.com/happy-hour live. Get your butts in there and start talking to us right now. Mark,
Yes.
the NASDAQ actually dropped in half. Do you own 401ks? Do you have IRAs? Do you still buy stocks and continue to slug away?
Well, let me tell you what I do. And the truth is, because I'm so busy here and so not allowed to own stocks, I have 401ks, I have IRAs, I have very few as far as equities, individual equities, and just sort of put them in some large caps, in some bonds, and they were just sitting
Are
there.
you worried? Were you panicked? Who need
Right.
health care? I got a problem with bailouts and welfare
bailouts and
programs
the bailouts.
for rich Wall Street guys. Guys,
And GM, the GMAC in particular.
Cerberus would be the one that's benefiting from that.
Even today we were talking about
Cerberus,
that.
you're my enemy too. Goldman Sachs, Cerberus, you're all my enemy.
Get in line.
Guys, we got a whole lot more. Mixer, we're going to talk to the people here in the bar.